facts. My name is Prachi. Ancient Egyptians used to mourn the death of their family cats by shaving off their eyebrows. And this is just like a chatty get ready with me where I discuss a whole bunch of different topics like Shane Dawson, Jeffree Star, Anastasia, Jaclyn Hill, etc. Hello, it is very early in the morning, so I just wanted to film like a chatty get ready with me as I get ready for the day. And the thing that I wanted to talk about were like a whole bunch of the topics that have like been in the ether for the last month and a half in the beauty community. So these include my thoughts on like Anastasia and their release date, the Shane Dawson Jeffree Star collaboration and documentary series, and on Jaclyn Hill Cosmetics having a comeback and deciding to release a bunch of highlighters. Now, as a South Asian person, I am a connoisseur of tea. And so I am aware that this tea, this is not piping hot. This is not hot. This is not even lukewarm. This is cold chai. My opinions are arriving like 20 days late, iced chai latte from Starbucks in hand. However, I still have those opinions. They're still bouncing around in my head. I haven't had an outlet to release them. And so I decided to just talk about them as I was getting ready to do my work for today. If you would like to partake in some cold chai, if you maybe also had opinions and thoughts on this issue and you felt like you like arrived late to the scene, you weren't able to share them anywhere, feel free to spout off in the comments, agree with me, disagree with me, give your own thoughts, etc. Love reading that stuff, love engaging in it. So I feel like I need to put the standard disclaimer, these are my opinions. It's not that deep. Don't get too pressed. You are allowed to have different opinions from me. I'm not going to oppress you because you have different opinions from me. Difference makes the world go round. Can you imagine how boring this world would be if only one spice existed? Actually, we do know what a world with only one spice would look like because that is the way all Europeans lived before they discovered colonization and other cultures. Salt was literally like the only thing Europeans had back in the day, which is like why brining and pickling was like all the rage, and Europeans literally went to war for other spices. Don't believe me? Look up the Nutmeg Wars. The fact that Europeans invented imperialism and colonization in an effort to get more than just the one spice goes to show you just how important variety really is. We're allowed to not agree, we're allowed to get a little bit heated and passionate if we don't agree. What we are not allowed to do is be uncivil. But I trust all of my subscribers watching, so I'm gonna wrap up this little like disclaimer statement now. In fact, I'm gonna wrap up this entire intro and take you back to before any of this ever happened. Let's get it! Alrighty folks, all of my skincare, sunscreen, everything is on. I'm just gonna wait for my sunscreen to dry a little bit before I go in with my base makeup. So let me work on my eyes a bit first. I'm hoping to finish filming this video before construction noises kick in. So I suppose I should just get right into it. This is something that's just kind of been like mulling around in my mind for a really long time. So obviously, I'm sure all of you all know, because you haven't been living under a rock like I have, that the brand Anastasia has been crazy ramping up the amount of things that they release in a calendar year. Right, and this is a comparison that like everybody else has made before, but it's so apt. Anastasia is kind of turning into the new Colourpop, but their prices are not Colourpop prices. They're out here releasing palettes that cost like over 55 Canadian dollars. And there have been like 1,000 videos on this topic. Everyone has already done their like incredibly nice hot takes and whatnot. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about like my own personal experience as a person on a no-buy year, like witnessing this whole Anastasia thing happen. Because here's the thing about me, get ready for this bombshell. I'm a person who doesn't own any eyeshadow by Anastasia. Like not a single one of their palettes has ever really intrigued me. No offense, or perhaps full offense to Anastasia, but like a lot of their sort of cult palettes, I feel don't really work that well for people with melanin in their skin. The one that actually comes to mind the most for me is the Modern Renaissance palette. There are at least like 4 to 6 shades in the Modern Renaissance palette that are just like icy and washed out and gross looking on my skin. But when the Jackie Aina palette came out, for the first time in my life, I was genuinely so intrigued by an Anastasia palette. The moment I saw those swatches on all these different skin tones, I was like, oh my god, I want it. And the reason why I'm bringing up this anecdote is because one of the most fascinating things about this entire Anastasia debacle to me has been Norvina's justification for why Anastasia is like rapidly releasing products. The company feels like they're forced to do this because all of the marketing research or whatever that they've done on the way the makeup industry operates now suggests that people get bored really easily and that they want releases ASAP. This idea that they have to release a whole bunch of products in order to generate excitement for their brand. And I find that super fascinating because for me personally, Anastasia's behavior regarding releases has actually greatly diminished my interest and trust in the brand. I actually want the Jackie Aina palette a lot less now than I did before. Not because my interest in its color story or anything has waned, but because I kind of almost like don't trust the palette or the brand anymore. Specifically, I don't trust that it will actually be good in terms of quality. Because to me, the way Anastasia treated that entire release felt incredibly rushed, right? You had the Jackie Aina palette, and then like literally like 2 weeks later you had the Norvina Pro 1 and 2, then you had the Norvina Pro 3 like 2 weeks after that, then the Carly Bible palette, and now we have those like smaller Norvina quads. And the sort of rushed way in which Anastasia released the Jackie Aina palette and then treated its like marketing, it unfortunately gives me the impression that they did the same thing with the production of the palette. And maybe that's not true, right? Maybe the production of the Jackie Aina palette is solid and they did actually spend a lot of time and a lot of energy making sure that it was perfect. But like, here's the unfortunate truth about like marketing and just actually about human behavior in general. We are very, very fallible. We are very, very biased. We are very, very emotional and intuitive. And a lot of times we will kind of throw rationality to the wind and go kind of with our gut instinct. And for me, as a potential customer of Anastasia Beverly Hills, the rapid rate of releases which don't seem well coordinated or well thought out, none of which is like properly showcased and promoted because they're coming so quickly one after the other that there's no real time to even like process what's going on. What it has done for me emotionally as a customer is that it has unfortunately biased me into thinking that Anastasia now is a company that does things in a very rushed, haphazard, not well thought out way. And not just with regards to marketing and promotions, but with regards to production and quality control. Because the unfortunate truth is that once a company tarnishes one part of its reputation, the fallout from that revelation often spreads to other aspects of that company's behavior. Let's say that you found out that like one of your friends or close acquaintances or something lied to you, right? They told you a lie. Maybe that lie was the only lie that they have ever told you over the course of your entire friendship. But because you've been lied to this one time in this one situation, odds are you will start second guessing everything else that friend has ever told you to try and figure out if they were lying to you or not. The fact that they only like messed up in this one situation doesn't matter because it colors your perception of all of their other behavior. And the end result of Anastasia's behavior surrounding their release schedule is that I actually kind of like doubt the thought and care and consideration put into the production of their actual products, right? To the quality of their actual products. And I'm much less inclined to buy the Jackie Aina palette now, right? Anastasia has, for all intents and purposes, lost me as a potential customer because of their behavior around releases. Now, this is just like my opinion. I'm not saying like everybody else is behaving like me. Clearly, people are like still buying Anastasia's stuff in order for them to be like going down this route, I assume. But I personally am just like less inclined to. And here I actually want to take a moment to discuss this like trend I am seeing in eyeshadow palettes recently, which is the like resurgence of these really, really large palettes. So the Norvina Pro Pigment palettes definitely come to mind, as well as the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. Like large palettes in terms of palettes that feature lots and lots of colors. It's not like 10, 12, 14 colors, it's like 18, 20, 25. And here I'm just giving like my own unsolicited onions, like no one can take them from me. I personally am kind of like turned off and uninterested by really, really large palettes. And that's because I'm a firm believer in the art of curation. The idea of curation is that instead of just like throwing everything in the kitchen sink at you, somebody who has some level of expertise or knowledge or taste narrows down the selection to better guide you. Curation is the reason why art museums don't put up every single painting that they own on the wall. They leave lots of stuff in storage. They're very selective about what goes up. And me personally, when people release really big eyeshadow palettes, basically if there's more than like 14, 15 shades in an eyeshadow palette, I just kind of want to like grab Norvina and even like Natasha Denona and kind of shake them a bit and be like, show some self-control, man. Because for me, like true artistry comes from the capacity to create like a palette that is incredibly like diverse and multifunctional and can give you like a whole range of looks and a whole range of ideas with a very limited, pared back, restrained number of eyeshadows. If you are able to show me that you can do more with less, I am very, very impressed. Whereas when like makeup brands just throw a bunch of colors together and then chuck them at you, I'm just like unimpressed. And actually, I'm also kind of overwhelmed. And this actually ties in really well to what I'm saying before. There's something called, I believe it's called the paradox of choice. It's this like empirically, scientifically documented phenomena that shows that the more choices and options you present a human being, the less likely they are to actually end up making a decision. I believe that the initial study that they had to do involved like jam, where they basically had I think like 2 different setups at a store, and in one of them they only gave the consumer like 3 options of jam that they could buy, and then in the other one they gave them like 20. And what the scientists basically found is that when people were faced with like 20 options, they just got so overwhelmed they left without buying any jam. The brain was basically like, this is too much, I can't do this, peace. And this is true not just with like jam selection at the grocery store, but everywhere in life. If you overwhelm people with too many options, they're just less likely to engage. And when it comes to Anastasia, this is true not only of the actual contents of the palettes themselves. Why are they so big? Why are there so many different pans of eyeshadows that are all so close together? But it also applies to the actual brand philosophy for 2019. You are releasing too much crap, Anastasia. You are flooding the market. There is too much choice. When Anastasia used to only put out a couple palettes a year, people went crazy over them and they bought them without even thinking. They were like, oh, this is a no-brainer. I trust Anastasia, blah, 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 whatever. Now, because Anastasia has flooded its own brand with so much choice, people are just feeling kind of overwhelmed and checking out. And I think this is actually true of where the makeup industry is kind of right now. Like there are a lot of people who are, I think, feeling a sense of sort of overwhelm, and I think it has to do with the paradox of choice. There's just so much makeup being released. I feel tired and overwhelmed by the amount of choices, and as a result of that, I just kind of want to disengage. And for me, Prachi on a no vibe, that's great news because it cuts down the temptation to like buy stuff at all. But the environmental impact of it is also something to consider and something that I've been thinking about acutely. Okay, I spent so long talking about Anastasia. Let's move on to some of the other stuff. So the next thing I wanted to discuss was kind of like the whole Jeffree Star Shane Dawson series, which has finally come to a close. I have never been so happy in my life that I did not sit down and watch it. Because that's like 7.5 hours of your life that you are never getting back. And it was pretty much just one really, really long ad. There were so many people who thought that they were going to get inside information into the more like personal and human aspect of the influencer industry and the beauty industry because of Jeffree Star inserting himself into the entire like Tati James situation earlier on, right? And a lot of people were expecting Shane to actually do some like real documentary filmmaking, showing us what really happened on the ground, doing like in-depth interviews, like full-blown Ken Burnsing that shit. And what's worse is that he like promised his viewers some version of that in the trailer and then last minute just kind of like backed out. If I went to go see a trailer and then I showed up for the movie and then like half of the most intriguing scenes in the trailer like weren't even there, I would be so pissed. And that basically is what Shane Dawson did. It's like he hooked everybody on false premises. I feel really bad for people who like wasted their time watching that series and then they feel like betrayed or whatever. But I guess, not to quote Gabby Hanna, but like manage your expectations next time. Because clearly everyone expects way too much from Shane Dawson. The man clearly at the end of it all just wanted to make a documentary that functioned, one, as an advertisement for a palette that he was putting out, very successful ad campaign too at that, and two, that mostly just documented his like own issues with self-worth. And like, listen, I'm the first proponent of freaking like Bangtan Sonyeondan, like love myself, love yourself, talk about therapy, self-worth and stuff all the time. So I'm glad he's getting his shit together, his self-esteem is better, but it's like 7 hours for that? Was that necessary, my dude? And I know like a couple people were saying like James and Tati must have gotten like lawyers involved, so that's why like Shane can't release anything. And I'm like, you know, if that were the case, at least like man up and then tell people that, right? Be like, hey, listen, I really wanted to give you all of the drama, all of this tea, but people involved in the drama have gotten their lawyers involved and I'm not trying to get sued. If it really were a case of like he could get into legal trouble for releasing it, like why wouldn't he just say that? It would actually make the whole situation so much more understandable and it would make him like so much more sympathetic to his fans. So the fact that he hasn't said that suggests to me that he just kind of like chickened out, because my suspicion is that Jeffree Star's behavior towards James Charles was in fact inexcusable. That there was no way for Shane to spin all of the horrible stuff that Jeffree said about James Charles in a way that would still make Jeffree look like a good person and make people want to still buy his collaboration palettes when they restock. And pause, I'm gonna link my like video rant about James Charles up in the cards right now, just to let y'all know that like I am not a James Charles stan. The guy is untrustworthy, James Charles is untrustworthy, he's a liar, and he exhibits aspects of gay male misogyny that I'm like still not down for, and I am not under any circumstances a Jeffree Star stan, because anti-blackness, I don't fuck with it. So I don't have a horse in either race, I don't care about any of these people, but objectively, the stuff that Jeffree sent James Charles by text was horrifying. And if it came out that those vicious statements were made completely baselessly, like Jeffree just did it for the drama, for the fun, to like involve himself to see like James Charles burn, and more importantly, if it were Shane Dawson, again, the man responsible for restoring Jeffree Star's reputation to whatever extent it can be restored, who revealed that fact, that would I think have been like pretty catastrophic. I am long past the point of believing that cancel culture will ever affect Jeffree Star. I think that dude is like freaking immune. So I'm sure he would still have been like kind of fine, but his reputation definitely would have taken a huge hit, and the business numbers for the conspiracy palette, like the restocks and all of that stuff, would also definitely have taken a huge hit. And quite frankly, it would also have released a lot of uncomfortable questions for Shane around why he was choosing to associate himself with Jeffree Star, even after he witnessed him engaging in like really cruel and vicious behavior. So I actually kind of doubt that there would have been like full-blown legal consequences from either James Charles or Tati for showing what happened like during that month. I think it was more of just like a business decision on Shane Dawson's part. Smart one too. The last couple things that I kind of want to say about Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star is like the fact that they are re-releasing that dumb conspiracy palette with that one emerald green shade. The marketing on that is like evil genius levels of good. Because now all of these fools who caped really hard for that emerald shadow and who want it will go out and buy a palette that they already own exactly, except for that one color. The way Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson are making bank with minimal effort, like I have to be impressed at the scammery. I'm like, wow, y'all really did that. And the idea that they're doing it for the fans or whatever, that's an absolute scam. If they were actually doing it for the fans, they would have released that green eyeshadow as a single. This is not for the fans. This is for their wallets, and that's that on that. Okay, let me turn off the camera and put on some lipstick because I can't talk while doing that. The last like 2 cents I want to give about the Shane Dawson Jeffree Star collaboration is the whole thing with like fibers being found in the palette and whatnot. And the way that Jeffree Star and his company have like handled that entire issue, well done. Although I hesitate to lavish praise on a company and a founder for behaving in just the bare bones manner in which every single company and founder should. I find it kind of ridiculous that people are like falling over themselves to praise Jeffree Star for his handling of the situation when this is like standard issue. This is the stuff that they teach you in like public relations 101. Every single company should be behaving like this if they have an even half competent PR team. It is kind of alarming that beauty companies have been so unprofessional and messy and incompetent on a very public stage that we think a company actually just doing its job competently for once is this like huge, incredible, genius level accomplishment. The way Norvina behaved during the Anastasia subculture drama, the way that Jaclyn Hill behaved during her like hairy lipstick gate, the way the founder of Juvia's Place behaved towards Jackie Aina when their foundations launched, that is not the norm. And the fact that we have normalized like founders and representatives of companies behaving so unprofessionally on social media, which social media, by the way, is a form of public relations, just goes to show how far our standards for public relations, for professionalism, for good business have fallen. Jeffree Star Cosmetics should be getting at best a lukewarm golf clap for the way in which he handled the fibers being in his palette, because every single company is supposed to be behaving like that. The fact that he's getting like a standing ovation, outrageous applause, says more about the state of professionalism and public relations in the current beauty industry than it does anything about Jeffree Star or Jeffree Star Cosmetics competency. Okay, the last thing that I kind of want to chit chat about as I wrap up this makeup look and head about my day, it's actually a perfect segue, is Jaclyn Hill and the announcement that she's releasing a whole bunch of highlighters. So I'm definitely not buying any of them. First of all, I'm on a makeup no buy. Second of all, I don't trust that company for shit. I just sat here and told you that I don't super trust Anastasia anymore. So what makes you think that I'm going to trust Jaclyn Cosmetics? Like, hell no. However, and I cannot believe I'm being put in a position where this is the opinion that I am forced to express, where I actually kind of come in defense of Jaclyn Hill. Madness, I know. But I feel like people have kind of been a little bit crazy in their response to her highlighters. People who are coming at Jaclyn Hill for her appearance, like really? Really? Are you so uncreative and mean and petty and uninspired that out of the million legitimate things that you could roast Jaclyn Hill for, you choose to go after her appearance and whether or not she's had surgery and whether or not she's like gained weight? Like, if your go-to insult for somebody who's doing things legitimately wrong is to go after them for their like weight and appearance, I just have to like laugh at that point because I'm like, wow, how did you like so thoroughly miss the point? The second thing that I kind of wanted to address is people appear to be like losing their minds over the fact that Jaclyn Hill's highlighters have mica in them. And people are like, oh my god, Jaclyn Hill is the worst person ever for saying that she uses mica, because did you know mica is mined using child labor? So if you buy the Jaclyn Hill highlighters, you're basically supporting child labor. And on the list of shit that just doesn't make any sense, that one takes the cake, because as a matter of fact, mica is not just in those Jaclyn Hill highlighters. Mica is in almost every single piece of makeup that is sparkly. If you use shimmery eyeshadows, odds are the shimmer in there comes from mica. If you wear any highlighter at all from any brand, odds are the shimmer in it comes from mica. And no matter which company you get it from, if the ingredient is mica, like the mica that's mined from the ground, that mica probably involved child labor. I have done a lot of reading on the subject of mica, and I'm not going to bore you with it. I'm instead going to link up in the cards a very nice and informative short documentary by Refinery29 discussing the mica industry and mica mining, and how even when companies like to say that they are getting ethically sourced mica, they really aren't. Because the ways in which companies tend to substantiate that their mica is ethically sourced is not actually rigorous enough to catch child labor or forced labor. If you are a person who wears any form of shimmery makeup, if you've ever used eyeshadows, blushes, highlighters, odds are you have put something that was mined from the earth by a child on your face. Odds are I have put something mined from the earth by a child on my face literally as I was talking to you, because there's mica in my eyeshadow, bronzer, and blush today. There are people who are trying to change what's going on in the mica industry, but it's really, really difficult. It's really, really slow. Jaclyn Hill, there are a lot of things that she deserves to be criticized for, but if you're gonna hold her accountable for child labor issues around mica, like, you better hold yourself accountable for child labor issues around mica as well, because unfortunately we as consumers demand shimmery, beautiful, glowy cosmetics, and we never really think about like how the talc and mica and cobalt and stuff that gives everything pigment and shine, where all of that stuff comes from. We are all part of the problem. Not to like kind of be a communist, but there's no such thing as like ethical consumption under capitalism. Exploitative labor practices are a built-in part of the beauty industry, the fashion industry, the tech industry. It's sad and it sucks, but it's true. Now I'm gonna see if I can link down in the description box any like calls to action that are possible for us to do. But like basically, like, you can't blame Jaclyn Hill for a thing that is actually like endemic into the beauty industry. Although I would like to like thank everybody making a really big deal about it for actually bringing the issue to light, because I think before this a lot of people probably weren't aware that the mining of mica was like an ethical issue. And so although Jaclyn Hill is like unfairly receiving flack for it, at least the end result is hopefully like more increased awareness of the issue, which will be enough to like incite some change. So that's that on that. My makeup is done. I believe the construction noises should be starting in like 10-15 minutes. So just in the nick of time. Thanks for listening to me blabber on about very, very cold chai. I'm gonna set about having what will hopefully be a very lovely and productive rest of my day. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. And even if the rest of your week ends up becoming messy or imperfect, I hope that you're still able to create and experience some truly beautiful moments. Thanks for watching. Bye.